Good morning, welcome. I'm Jeff Fagel, I'm the CMO for Cofactor. We're the marriage of Point Roll and Shop Local. I'm the host for today. Ricky Gervais wasn't available, so you got me.
He was, but we opted for you instead.
Yeah. Opted for me instead. So welcome, and we partner with Advertising Week to curate a solid day of brand-driven content. First up here, the e-commerce future.
Thank you. Morning, guys. I'm Ken Wheaton. I'm the editor of Advertising Age, and with me on stage we have Cindy Chen and Bonin Bough from Mondelez. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes. Mondelez.
Mondelez. We argue about that in the office all the time.
Well, it's a delicious world. Mondelez.
All right, there we go. And we're going to talk about the future of e-commerce. And I guess the first question is the most obvious from a journalistic point of view is you're this great snack brand, well-loved brands. So why get into e-commerce?
Well, we all know that e-commerce is going to be huge, right? So we all read the statistics. By 2020, there are two base pieces of statistics, right? The first one is 3 to 10% of revenue will come from online, right? The second piece is that more than 50% growth will coming from online. So as a #1 snacking company in the world, we must take the charge, right? So those are the key reasons why we need to drive that.
Now, in studying this, do you have numbers attached to this? Do you have like potential sales targets or?
Yes, so really excited. So about 3 weeks ago when we were at the BTS conference, right? So our chief growth officer, Mark Klaus, actually came out and gave one number. We're really excited. So $1 billion by 2020.
1 billion.
So that's our KPI.
Okay, and how does that compare to just regular retail? Do you know what do you do normally in stores?
We're a $35 billion company, so
okay.
Yeah.
$1 billion. But I think, first of all, good morning, Ad Week. How are you guys? You know what? You guys stood online. You braved the weather. Neither of those. But anyway, here's the key. We need you guys to take to Twitter and say best panel ever, hashtag AWXII, whatever it is, so that we make everybody else jealous that they're not sitting here, because I promise you this will be the best panel ever. I think that aside from the $1 billion target, first of all, I'm excited to be here with Cindy Chen. I have been a big fan of Cindy. For those of you who don't know, Cindy has been probably the most important change agent in our organization for the last 3 years. So while everybody stands around and talks about having done the Oreo Dunk in the Dark or the Oreo 100 Days activation, Cindy Chen was actually the person who did it. She ran the brand during that time. Then she left to go to China to transform our China business, and then she came back to North America to transform our gum business, where we were lucky enough to pluck her to transform our e-commerce business. And I think the vision that she set in front of us is one that we as an organization not are only proud, but also are aspirational in terms of our goal to reach. And the proof points, I think, have been done over the last 8 months, which is the reason why our chief growth officer at Back to School came out and talked about $1 billion. And I think it's less about what this game is more about growth, right? So for us, in every organization, growth is the lifeblood to success. And so when we look at where will a large percentage of our growth as an organization come from, it will be from e-commerce. So 50% of our potential growth will come from e-commerce, that $1 billion. So that's, I think, just a different perspective to look at versus will it be 3% of revenue or 10% of revenue. That's why it's so important.
Are there regions in the world where it's going to be a bigger part of the business than?
Yeah, and the other thing, even before actually I get to your question, is I think Bonin is absolutely right. By the way, I think that the added benefit of having a panel with Bonin is Bonin is so good at promoting me, right? So I'm going to hire him as my official PR, right?
If this e-com thing doesn't work out, somebody's got to hire me. So if there's anybody else in the audience.
Just to get into the Cindy love, Cindy was we named her a woman to watch at Advertising Age this past year. So
I'm going to hire you as well, PR.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that one of the most exciting part is if you think about Mondelez, $35 billion. We are a very traditional company, right? So obviously, with Bonin here, Bonin was able able to single-handedly actually change the culture within the organization, right? So starting from the media, the mobile first, and then e-commerce, right? But I think that as I mentioned, the most exciting part is how do you actually build this so-called unicorn within this traditional company, right? So we talk about $1 billion unicorn, but we think that the e-commerce within Mondelez, $35 billion, is sort of like a startup culture.
Okay.
And our ambition, beside the KPI, $1 billion, is really trying to build this unicorn within the legacy company. And that is a part I am personally really, really excited. And that's a part of why I'm just so excited to be working along with Bonin, and also the global e-commerce team sitting in the audience is Lauren and Arthur here, right? But then let me answer your question directly, right? So yes, we have 5 regions. The 5 regions are not created equal, right? So we think in the next, at least in the next 3 to 5 years' time, China is obviously AP, super important, right? AP and India, right? As you see that Mark Zuckerberg a couple of days ago, had this conversation with the Prime Minister of India. India is also important. Then there's obviously here in the United States. United States, North America is the #1 most developed e-commerce market. Obviously, UK is super, super important for us. Tesco is leading the charge, right? So in our mind, those are the 3 really regions that we think will give us the most growth. Obviously, we cannot forget EMEA, which is the Africa, Russia, but also Latin, led by Brazil, right?
Yeah.
So.
You've been testing this, you've been rolling this out. Has one region been performing stronger than another so far? You're learning different things from China that you...
Well, I think the world is early now. I mean, we haven't been testing, and we've been heads down building the business.
Yeah.
I wish it was just a test.
Yeah.
No. I'm saying the pressure would be a lot less. No, I think the fact of the matter is that it's early days. So yes, given given veracity of the population and the growth of e-commerce in China, will China be a bigger growing market? Yes. But I think that what's more interesting is that there are models that we're learning. So, you touch down, you go to Alibaba, which is pretty much a city that was built in the last 4 years, and the average age is 22. It's the largest retailer on the face of the planet, and they own no stores. They look vastly different. And you can look and you can see a future of how China's going to grow that. By the way, they're going to be their largest consumers come from tier 4, tier 5. They're going to be on every single college campus by the end of this year. And they are also building a massive media arm. So in reality, you begin to look, and first route to market to rural China all of a sudden looks like Alibaba, right? 80% of the orders come from mobile phones. But then on top of that, you might have a new consumer who might never set foot in a store, and also they might never view traditional television. So the 2 drivers of growth that you've had that's driven your business, mass communication and mass distribution, might be completely wiped out. So that's interesting, you see that for China. But when we step back and look at it, we don't just see China, we see Africa. So we see an Alibaba model where you might be seeing that in rural and developing markets all over the world, and that's part of kind of their ambition. Then you shift over to something like Tesco, where Tesco has really perfected click and collect. And that's really, buy online, pick up in store. And you begin to look and think about what does the Walmart model look like in North America when they move to a click and collect or that kind of. So that's one model. And then you have the Amazons of the world. And then you move beyond just Amazon and you begin to get the newer players like Instacart, or you begin to get the delivery box businesses. And so, I wouldn't necessarily call on one region right now. Right. What I would look at is what are the models that are developing and how do we learn where those are going to move? And if you can master those, or you can have a laser focus on getting good at those models, then all of a sudden you can build growing businesses almost anywhere that these models are going to pop up.
Yeah. Now, I'm a traditional guy. I still watch TV ads and I still go to the store, and I think rightly or wrongly, snacks are seen as an impulse purchase. And I don't know that necessarily Oreos are. I mean, I think a candy bar might be, but...
You want an Oreo?
Yeah, actually, yeah. So I go to the store and I see Oreos on the end cap, or I see the commercials on TV, or even the social media efforts. But in a sort of an Alibaba world, or Alibaba model, or if you're going for e-commerce, how are you getting this consumer's attention if they're not
No, don't get me wrong. Look, we're using extremes here. So television is still a massively important medium for us, and video is a hugely important medium. In fact, the reason why we kind of merged media and e-commerce together was to begin to get a totally different view on being able to understand what is our communication actually doing on the other side of sales. So if we reach $1 billion, we'll ultimately have more people panel, if you want to say that, data in most of our important markets than even Nielsen can provide to us today. So it's not necessarily that, but I think what you touched on is most important, and I'm going to let Cindy talk about it, which is the impulse nature of our business. Right. And that's where we believe that we can be thought leaders and change agents or transform kind of the business itself. And so how do we begin? So 150 years ago, we built quote-unquote technology that allowed us to put candy bars and gum at the front of store, and we built the impulse category. Now today, it's a totally different ballgame. We have to use technology, real tech, to actually build that impulse behavior again. And we believe that that actually is the unlock for our business, and quite frankly, the unlock for our partnership with retailers, where we can actually help transform their businesses and grow the impulse category.
Right. So how many people actually know that what is impulse category, right? So we view our category as impulse, right? But impulse actually are two levels, right? So, and this is the comparison to other CPG companies, right? So if you think about P&G, there's Pampers, there's paper tissue, there's a paper towel. Those are the products that you use every day, right? So it's a subscription, fulfillment, regular fulfillment makes sense. Our categories are, it's about instant gratification, instant consumption, right? So for instance, if you want chocolate, if you want a piece of a green and black chocolate, you do not want to wait for 10 days, because by that time you want a wine instead of chocolate, right? The second.
I want to move in with you.
The other piece is about impulse purchase, right? So you go to a grocery store in the past, you are standing in the checkout line and you saw this candy, you say, oh my God, I have this craving, let me pick it up. So you actually purchase a product on impulse. It was not in the shopping list. So those are our definition of impulse, right? So that's one. The second piece I want to say is how to have the demand generation. You asked the question, right? I would say there are two key trends, at least in my view, is extremely important. One is mobile commerce, right? Bonin already mentioned that. Mobile commerce for Alibaba, actually as a broad China, next year it's expected more than 50% e-commerce orders will come from mobile commerce, which is huge, right? And just to put it into perspective, next year, China alone, mobile commerce will be more than $500 billion, right? Put that into perspective. Mondelez, $35 billion. China mobile commerce will be more than $500 billion next year, right? So Alibaba certainly is leading the charge. Is in my mind, in order to generate the demand, really win the mobile commerce, mobile front is very, very important. And another anecdotal to share with you guys is Alibaba is very, very smart, right? They just signed a deal with China Telecom, where they also had a partnership with the biggest unicorn, speaking of unicorn, in the world, which is Xiaomi, right? So Xiaomi is a cell phone company. They actually produce this cell phone as cheap as $48. Think about smartphone, $48, right? And the only thing this smartphone does is not about browsing or what have you. It's about buying product on Taobao. Very smart, right? The second piece is about the key trend is about social commerce, right? Social commerce, as we know that your friend's post is so important for you to pick it up to actually influence your purchase, right? That's why we, Mondelez, we signed a deal, global deal with Facebook, right? So who else has the biggest millennials social commerce platform? It's Facebook, right? So we signed a deal in June, and hopefully working with Facebook, they will also help us figure out the model for impulse. Yeah. So those are two things. Mobile commerce and social commerce, I think, will really help us generate that demand.
Yeah. And when we say impulse, like you said, if I want a cookie now, I want a cookie now. I don't want to wait 10 days. I mean, obviously Amazon has gotten it down to 2 days, and then I guess in the city, urban areas, sometimes you can have them delivered the same day.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I think her point was there's two pieces, right? So there's immediate gratification. I want a cookie now, can I have it delivered now? And there are models that are being built to deliver that on e-commerce, Instacart, so on and so forth.
Even Uber, right? Under 10 minutes in Washington, D.C.
So the gum work that we're doing with Uber, what she's referencing. Then the other thing is, how do you put it in front of a person so that they see, oh, I want it? And that's where we think there's a lot of work to be done, not just on the delivery side, but also on that path to purchase.
The model.
So exactly. So if you look at Cindy referenced our Facebook, but if you look at our other partnership that we launched in March with Channel Site, which is Buy Now buttons.
Yeah.
So literally, every single piece of digital communication that you see, oh, you know what, you're right, I want to add Oreo to my cart, boom, I want to add it to my shop experience. And then all of the different pieces that are on that path to purchase, and that's what our goal is, to begin to invest and to meet partners, hopefully many that are in the audience today that'll stop us afterwards, that we begin to understand how are we transforming that path to purchase. If you think about the shopping experience, it's rudimentary right now. It's so early stages for e-commerce shopping experience. There is nothing that's helping to suggest or so what does that world look like? At least there's nothing universally across all of our retailers. So.
Yeah.
So, in terms of the retailers, the online retailers, and I think you've done it with Trident, and I've seen you do it with Oreos and Target in terms of specialized flavors that come out seasonally. Is that going to be a key piece to driving, if not impulse, then awareness online? The special Oreo flavor, or I think Trident, you're doing Star Wars packaging.
Yep, we're doing Star Wars packaging. You'll see other stuff. I mean, the key is incrementality, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you want to develop a channel that can actually deliver incremental growth. So we know that there's going to be migration, plain and simple, as consumers. Look, I think that we don't give enough appreciation to, if you're a mom of two and you live in an urban market, why are you going to go to the store to buy milk and to buy the basics? You might go for meat and fresh, maybe to that extent, even though I question that as well. I haven't been to a store in, I don't know, like years. It's like Fresh Direct is the only thing we know, right? It's like the only thing we know. Anyway, so the point is that behavior in urban markets, that's only going to grow, right? And so I think there's two big target areas. One is, I think, millennial mom, and I think boomer. So my dad, for example, Amazon is his best friend. He's 87 years old. He's done. Like, he's gone to enough supermarkets. He doesn't need to do any of that anymore, And so I think we underestimate kind of the power of those two consumers. And then I think on the other side is incrementality. So how do we know there's going to be migration, but how do we then create incremental products, different reasons for you to buy something online, whether it's different packaging, whether it's different bundling, all the way to custom or personalized experiences with food.
Well, I think there's probably opportunity in rural areas too, because I grew up where you have to drive half an hour to go to a grocery store, and if it's a shelf-stable product,
Well, there's food deserts all over the U.S. that, that's one of the big things that Amazon is talking about, is how do you solve for that too? So yes, I believe that, but I think that, yes, so I'm glad you said that. Yes, we are going to service those rural areas as well.
Good.
That's why we say that Alibaba model has implication not only for emerging markets, but also for United States, right? So how do you go to the rural areas, right?
Have you learned anything interesting about consumer behavior while rolling this out across, maybe the United States or China? Are they shopping?
I think I think what we've learned more, so that, yes, and I'll come back to that, but I think there's a fundamental disbelief around how far consumers have gone in their understanding of their connection with brands and the reduction of the path to purchase. And so when we started looking at Buy Now buttons on every single piece of media, the biggest pushback that we had was, oh, no, this is an equity spot. There's no reason to have direct response or on an equity spot. But that mindset was built for a time when you had 15 and 30 seconds to deliver, and that was literally it, right? And in reality, I think consumers have gone so far that for them, the best manifestation of equity is literally their ability to get the product. Like that is, and so when we begin to look at the numbers behind that, if you're running, for us, we're running online video, interactive unit, both interactive units, that one interactive unit that had no Buy Now on it versus the interactive unit that had a Buy Now, we saw a 400% increase in the engagement with the unit that had Buy Now on it. There was also other engagement opportunities on the other interactive unit. I just think that begins to speak that consumers' path to purchase and expectation. If you think about the guys that are winning in this space, the app download guys. The app download guys aren't like, oh, this is the equity for clan of whatever, and then here's the buy. No, it's all in one. The Nature Box guys, all the guys that are truly digital marketers that are winning in this, or marketers of this generation that are winning in the space, have collapsed that thinking, and consumers are there already. And I don't think we give the consumer, our biggest challenge is as consumers, we use these, or as people, we use these devices, and then we walk into the four walls of our business, and we're like, oh, no, we're now we're talking about consumers from the 60s. There's no longer, And so I think that for me, that has been the single biggest learning, which is we underestimate how far the consumer is on the journey, on their digitized journey. And we still have this huge gap between where consumer consumption of kind of these new models are at and where organizational usage of them is.
Yeah, so I have two learnings, right? So the first one, the incrementality, right? So when we embark the journey about e-commerce, right, the first pushback is say, oh my God, you're gonna steal my business from my traditional channel, right? So, it's very difficult for me to support you if you're just stealing my business. As a matter of fact, what we see, at least from the experience from other retailers, what we see depending on different countries, actually it's incremental from 70 to 100%, right? So Arthur here has all the data. He will tell you even when they shop online, the basket size is so much bigger than in a traditional channel, right? So that's one, and which we think that's get to the second, kind of learning is how, as an organization and as a changing agent within the organization, how we actually educate ourselves, our traditional, kind of organization, that we are not stealing business, we actually help the company to grow, right? So that's the first one. The second piece is about the talent, right? So Bonin actually, will tell you more about talent, which is the organization, does the organization have the right talent and right size of the talent pool so that we can actually be ready for the e-commerce change? Because the things that we're looking at for e-commerce, it is not a traditional marketing, kind of one-on-one, right? It is actually a data and tech game, right? So do we have that tech and data folks who can help us transcend that, right? So most recently, I think you guys came out with one article. There's a new term it's called CMTO, right? So in my mind, the future for e-commerce, who's leading e-commerce, this is CMO, CIO kind of combination, right? So it's not only traditional CMO anymore. So those are two things, the incrementality piece of it, and how to play the game and educate the organization and be ready for the e-commerce challenge.
Okay. Looks like we're running short on time. Do you have closing arguments to make?
Is there any questions?
I was going to throw it open to questions.
I always have closing arguments, but no.
Do we have any questions in the audience? I've got one right here.
I was going to say, I think there's two things. You have to look at, the loyalty, so when somebody shops offline and online, their loyalty grows, their basket size grows, the amount of trips to that specific retailer grows. At the same time, we know trips are reducing. So the horizon for incrementality is really going to be 18 to 24 months or maybe 3 years. But it is going to be a migration. There's no question. Shopping behavior is going to change. But part of that equation is us building incremental opportunities, different opportunities than they have online. Go ahead, Arthur. What?
Yeah, no. I'm thinking.
Arthur's
we have a perfect expert here, right? Arthur is global e-commerce right here, and he has all the answers for incrementality.
I think it's a critical question, and Bonin stated it completely correct. There will be a migration. We are conducting currently through panels, so tracking an actual individual consumer, their shopping behavior over time. The time horizon to get to true incrementality is probably 12 to 18 months. So we're in that learning journey. Our short-term understanding is trips are increasing when they move to a single channel offline to dual channel online offline, and their basket size increases when they do move to the online channel. Those two factors allow us the confidence to proceed in the next couple months. We know average number of retailers are significantly declining over time. 12.4 stores were the average number of visits in 2012. We're now down to something lower than 10. So there are less people shopping at less stores, less foot traffic, specifically for impulse categories, means less hot zones, less purchases.
But overall sales actually went up.
Let's give it up for Arthur. Come on,
yes,
from the audience.
Yes.
He gets paid for this, so let's not.
There's up on the.
Oh, hey. So what about eliminating fulfillment problems, experimenting with 3D printing? In home and kiosks and.
First of all, you've seen the Oreo 3D printer, I'm guessing. So we did an Oreo 3D printer, I guess, in 2014. I definitely think that there is a huge future in that. The question will become, how close is that future, and when can we get it down to a level where, where we can maintain quality and all those kind of pieces. So don't get us wrong, we're definitely exploring that area, and I think we've been in the front of that ball game. But I think what even more than that, what that points out, which is what we learned actually from the experiment at South by with the 3D printed Oreos, is the power of custom. So people are willing to wait online for 2.5 hours to have one single Oreo printed based on the Twitter trend or their custom selection. So I think what it talks about more importantly is the power of custom. And so how do you begin to move to custom personalized food experiences that are either based on their wants, their wishes, or potentially tied to how much they exercise that day, or all those type of things. So I think there's going to be a data-driven, personalized, customized world that is going to affect food, and that I think is closer to kind of the future in the short term.
One more, if we have one. If not, we will wrap it up. You see any hands?
No.
Kind of brighten here.
No.
No. All right. So I guess really just thank you guys for coming out. I hope that you guys have some time to spend with myself and Cindy afterwards, just talking to us about kind of some of the work that all of you guys are working on. I think e-commerce, not only is it one of the most important endeavors in our organization, but I think it's one of the most exciting moments or the exciting areas that we have as a CPG community. And how do we really begin to build thought leadership around that truly is going to transform these businesses? Cindy talked about unicorns. We firmly believe that the next billion-dollar businesses that are generated or created at pace will come from the digitization of traditional businesses, e-com probably being the cornerstone for the food, for kind of the food industry. And we want to be the thought leaders in that space, and we can only do that in partnership with many of you guys in the audience. So hopefully we get a chance to meet many of you guys. And thank you. Oh, sorry, Q.
I would echo what Bonin said very quickly is, we talked a lot about impulse purchase, right? So we don't pretend the fact that we already figured out. We have not. We figured out the tip of the iceberg, right? So that's why, getting the partnership and help from the folks sitting in the audience is very, very important, right? So I look forward to talking to you guys after the session.
Okay. Thanks everyone for coming. And
Yeah.
they're going to
Thank
boot
you.
us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So much. Yeah.